On this Saturday night, holding out hope for peace. The renewed optimism after Israel and Hamas warm up to Trump's peace plan for Gaza. But it won't take much to derail this fragile proposal.
The parties are not really singing from the same song sheet.
Ukraine under fire. The attacks from Russian drones on vital infrastructure. As potential sightings all over Europe raise concerns. Plus, game day for the Jays. The playoff excitement in Toronto as they take on the Yankees.
Global National, reporting tonight, Ann Gaviola.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Israel has reportedly halted its offensive to capture Gaza City a day after Hamas issued a surprisingly positive response to Donald Trump's peace plan. And tonight, the U.S. president says Israel has agreed to an initial withdrawal from Gaza and is waiting for a response from Hamas. The developments mark the most serious steps towards ending the nearly two-year war. But skepticism remains on both sides as deaths continue to mount and uncertainty clouds crucial negotiations. Jackson Proskow has tonight's top story.
Israeli bombs continued to rain down on Gaza, killing more than 30 on Saturday, according to local officials. Yet amid the rubble, there is, for the first time, optimism that it may all end soon. Thank God that Hamas has agreed, and God willing, they will remain agreeing, says this man. It's a right decision, though it came late, says another.
We are realistic, and we are waiting.
In Israel, families of the hostages are equally hopeful their loved ones, both living and dead, may soon be returned.
With hope that maybe soon I will be able to hug my son Nimrod, and all the 48 hostages will be back home.
Friday, both Israel and Hamas signaled they'd work to advance a peace deal pushed by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Plan creates something that we've never seen before, which is a day after plan, something tangible that folks can point to. The concern, though, however, is that the parties are not really singing from the same song sheet.
Indeed, Hamas's response stopped well short of full approval of the 20-point plan. Still, Trump was quick to celebrate and ordered Israel to immediately stop bombing Gaza.
We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down in concrete.
In a social media post Saturday, Trump acknowledged there's still work to be done. Hamas must move quickly or else all bets will be off, he wrote.
If the occupation ends and the Palestinians control themselves and there is a Palestinian state, Hamas no longer going to have any kind of weapon.
In an address to the nation, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is preparing a negotiating team to finalize the ceasefire proposal. Understanding U.S. support is increasingly tenuous, with Trump signaling his growing impatience at both sides in the nearly two-year-old conflict.
It doesn't really matter what's actually been put forward. It's just whether Trump is commanding the Israelis, stop the bombing, as he said, and Israel said, yes, sir.
Israel says its intention is to conclude negotiations in a matter of days, which matches Trump's timeline. While significant gaps with Hamas still have to be negotiated, both sides are preparing to meet with mediators and U.S. officials in the coming days. Ann?
Jackson Proskow in Washington. Thank you. Some 70,000 people poured into Barcelona's main boulevard today, part of a surge of protests across Europe against Israel's war in Gaza. Large rallies also took place in Rome, Lisbon, and in London, where police made more than 170 arrests at a demonstration in Trafalgar Square. Activists are urging European leaders to take a harder line against Israel and intensify diplomatic pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. More than 130 activists arrived in Turkey today after being deported by Israel for their involvement in a flotilla that was intercepted while trying to reach Gaza with aid. Global Affairs Canada has confirmed at least 2 Canadians were part of the nearly 500 people detained. It's not clear if they were part of the deported group. Meanwhile, another flotilla has set sail towards Gaza, with 10 boats now said to be attempting to break into the territory. In Ukraine, Russian drones struck 2 passenger trains at a station in the country's northeast, killing at least 1 person and injuring some 30 others. Moscow has intensified its aerial assaults as winter nears, ramping up attacks on critical infrastructure as well as energy sites. President Volodymyr Zelensky says it's terror the world can't ignore, demanding greater action from Western allies. Nathaniel Dove reports.
The aftermath of Russian drone strikes. Ukrainian authorities say the train was full of civilians. The CEO of the country's rail system saying there were 2 strikes, the second targeting medical staff responding to the first. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stating Russia is also attacking the country's gas lines ahead of the coming winter.
We slept here. I think that the closing is valid. You know, we still have a war going on in Europe. Havoc
in Germany, too, as drones of unknown origin grounded flights at the country's second largest airport for a second straight day, part of a reoccurring pattern like this drone at a Danish airport last week. NATO leaders suspect Russia is responsible, but Vladimir Putin denies it, comparing the drones to UFO sightings. But an expert says it matches Russia's strategy.
The aim, if this is Russia, is of course to reduce the resolve of their target population, which is Europe, and Europe's support for Ukraine.
General Dennis Thompson says it's hybrid warfare. Conflict so small, response risks escalation. Detecting, then intercepting drones is hard, and NATO right now lacks the capacity to easily do so.
I've been in this war now for 3.5 years, and none of us, Canada included, have really come up with a decent solution to the drone problem.
Europe is trying to coordinate a response.
They do not yet have a cohesive strategy.
A University of Toronto professor says the drones and jets prove Putin is betting NATO won't have the courage to push back anywhere.
What is very clear right now is that Russia's ambitions are not only about Ukraine. The Russian ambitions are much wider.
And until NATO can stop the drones, there will be more chaos at airports and more attacks on Ukraine. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
Violent clashes in Georgia's capital today as riot police used pepper spray and a water cannon to push back protesters trying to storm the presidential palace. Tens of thousands of people rallied in Tbilisi, demanding an end to the governing party's repressive Russian-like policies, which many fear will pull Georgia away from its democratic aspirations and bid to join the European Union. Saturday's protests began as the opposition rejected municipal election results, which the ruling Georgian Dream Party claims to have won. People in Czechia cast final votes in a pivotal election today that will likely steer the country away from its support of Ukraine and instead favor a pro-Russian path. According to preliminary results, billionaire and right-wing populist Andrej Babis will return to power. He served as prime minister from 2017 until 2021. Babis has pledged to join Hungary and Slovakia's leaders in scrapping military aid for Ukraine, continue importing Russian crude oil, and oppose European sanctions. Sanae Takaichi, a hardline conservative, won a critical leadership vote, putting her on course to become Japan's first female prime minister. The 64-year-old former economic security minister was elected leader of the governing Liberal Democratic Party, a move that will likely trigger a shift to the right. A parliamentary vote is expected mid-October before Takaichi formally replaces Japan's incumbent prime minister, who resigned last month following major election losses. To the long-running labor dispute at Canada Post. The union representing 55,000 postal workers says the Crown Corporation's latest contract offer is worse than before. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says the new proposal removes a previously offered signing bonus and could lead to job cuts and post office closures. Canada Post says its offer, which includes a 13% wage increase over 4 years, combined with improved benefits, is the most it can offer given its financial situation.
I have a message to the CEO of Stellantis Open the damn plant. We need to get our workers back in that plant.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford joined unionized workers outside the Stellantis assembly plant in Brampton today. Retooling to make next-generation Jeeps at the plant was paused in February following the U.S. announcement of a 25% tariff on Canadian-built vehicles. Ford called for Prime Minister Mark Carney to, quote, fight like hell when he goes to Washington on Monday. The Natural Resources Minister said on Friday that he's highly confident progress will be made.
We're also setting ourselves up, obviously, for the next stage of negotiations of the renewal of CUSMA. It's something the Prime Minister is relentlessly focused on with Minister LeBlanc, and I'm highly confident we will advance things in the best way for Canada.
Hodgson also addressed Alberta's proposal to build a new oil pipeline to the West Coast, saying the province is welcome to come forward with a plan as a proponent. But until it does, addressing BC's tanker ban would be hypothetical. In Toronto, it is a big day for baseball as the Blue Jays host the New York Yankees for Game 1 of the American League Division Series. This is the first time the division rivals are playing each other in the postseason, and needless to say, fans in the city and beyond are hyped up. Nicole DiDonato is outside the Rogers Centre. Nicole, what's the vibe like there right now?
And it's a sea of blue down here with Toronto fans feeling quite confident in the Jays' ability to take down the Yankees. This is the Jays' first time playing in the division series since 2016, so fans have been patiently waiting for this moment. While it's October baseball, it surely does not feel like it. It's warm and sunny, so the Dome was open for today's game. That good weather only adding to the good vibes. The Jays truly are Canada's team. I spoke to a few fans who traveled from across the country, including Prince Edward Island, Edmonton, and of course right here in Toronto to see the Jays take on the Yankees. These two rivals are facing each other for the first time in the postseason. The Jays and Yankees tied atop the AL East with identical records, but Toronto won the season series 8-5 to earn a bye to the ALDS. That downtime only expected to help the Jays in this series. They also have home field advantage, meaning if this series goes to 5 games, it will be played here in Toronto. I caught up with fans from both sides. Here's what they had to say.
You know what? Our husbands are all diehard Blue Jays fans. Playoffs, Jays, Yankees. It's too big not to be here.
Blue Jays all the way to the World Series. All the way to the World Series. Let's go. Here we go. Woo!
We got this. It comes down to postseason. Aaron Judge shows up and shows out. Go Yankees all day.
Businesses near the Rogers Centre also stepping up to the plate, expecting a major boost in sales during the postseason. As for the Jays and their fans, their message is they don't just want to win this series, they want it all. Anne.
Nicole DiDonato in Toronto. Thank you. War of the words coming up. Trump has warned of a, quote, war within. What experts make of his frequent use of the loaded word war. At least one person is dead and there is widespread destruction across the UK after Storm Amy battered parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The severe storm has caused major flooding and whipped up fierce winds over 150 kilometers an hour. Tens of thousands of homes and businesses are still without power. And there is criticism against tech giants for removing apps tracking the movement of ICE officers under pressure from the Trump administration. This week, Apple pulled the app, which helps users avoid aggressive ICE officers in their area, under demands of the U.S. Justice Department. Google also removed similar apps from their stores. Trump officials claim they've invited violence against officers. IceBlock's founder has accused Apple of capitulating to an authoritarian regime. As Trump prepares to deploy the National Guard in more U.S. cities, he's also ramping up his use of the term war. Trump called Portland, Oregon, war-ravaged, saying that it's part of a war from within. When it comes to U.S. law and the Constitution, experts say the term holds heavy significance and opens up a Pandora's box of potential actions.
The power to use deadly force as a measure of first resort. the power to use deadly force not based on an indication of actual threat, but based on a determination that the individual qualifies as an enemy belligerent. The power to detain people that you capture indefinitely without charging them with a crime or bringing them to trial as enemy belligerents, and the power to allege that their misconduct qualifies as a war crime, justifying trial by an extraordinary tribunal run by the military. So that threshold is critical for opening the door to these extraordinary powers.
And you can watch the full conversation between Jeffrey Korn, a renowned law of war expert, and interim West Block host Ben Mulroney tomorrow morning right here on Global. Ahead, by some estimates, AI is set to replace 30% of existing jobs. We ask an economist and futurist about AI-proofing your career. Are there skills that can't and maybe won't be replaced by AI? That is a question that economist and futurist Linda Nazareth has pondered. I spoke with her earlier and asked what skills she feels may be AI-proof.
Resilience, creativity, empathy, motivation and self-awareness, curiosity, service orientation, and teaching and mentoring. Now, you may have your favorites from that. There may be a longer list that people think are important. But I think for organizations and for individuals, developing these skills gives you a little bit of armor against all the changes ahead.
What can you tell us about the impact of AI on the labor market and jobs? I think it's safe to say the impact may come in waves and phases, but a lot of people are worried about this.
And, I think there's a legitimate worry there. We are really changing the technology in a way that we haven't before. We've had industrial revolutions. We've brought in computers. At one point people said, oh my goodness, you're going to have people checking their own groceries and getting their money out of banks without using bank tellers. We're not going to have anybody working in banks. And that didn't turn out to be true. We still have lots of people working in finance and in retail. This is somewhat different. This actually can replace job functions.
In June, I covered what many analysts call the quiet disappearance of roles or fractions of jobs, but you add them all up and they equal a certain number of full-time positions over time being replaced by AI. How difficult is it to quantify the AI disruption when it comes to jobs? Because a lot of analysts and economists do hesitate. It's tough.
It is, and it's going to change all the time. Are we talking about 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? I think it'll just mean a different workforce. I think there might be fewer jobs. The question here, though, Anne, is not will there be fewer jobs? It'll be if there's an increase in productivity and profits, who will own that? Will it flow to workers at all? Will there be some benefits there? Will it be a small number of people? Will it show up in tax revenues? It's not as simple as saying there'll be fewer positions. If we could all work less, that used to be in the 1960s, I believe, the belief that technology would make it easier to get the work done and we'd all work 3 days a week and make the same amount of money. And I think we have to ask those questions again.
I want to talk about the disruption on blue-collar jobs and white-collar jobs. I think at the beginning there was a big focus on, the blue-collar jobs that could be disrupted by automation, and now there's a lot of head-scratching over those entry-level white-collar jobs. What can you tell us about that?
What we actually are seeing now is that companies are using technology to replace what used to be entry-level workers. So the graduates who wanted to come in the workforce and start doing simple tasks, move up, aren't being offered those jobs. It's a real concern of mine because how are you going to have the middle and higher level workers if you don't train them? It's particularly a concern right now because the economy is slowing. There's concerns and companies are cutting back for whatever reason. And of course, you look for efficiencies where you can. So I think it does need to be addressed. I think there has to be a commitment to keep bringing people in and training them. Always easier said than done because it costs money.
Food for thought. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. That is economist and futurist Linda Nazareth. Next, launching dreams and aviation careers. The sky-high hopes as girls take flight in Toronto. Chances are on the next flight you take, the pilot will be a man. Only 1 in 14 pilots in Canada is a woman. But as Germain Ma reports, a special event at Toronto's Billy Bishop Airport aims to let girls' dreams take flight.
I'm gonna help you guys in.
This 5-seater plane is about to take off, with sisters Rhea and Maya in the cockpit.
Excited. A bit nervous.
Not to worry, pilot Allison Aberg is behind the throttle, and flying runs in her family.
Just going for a tour around the CN Tower.
Aberg grew up watching her dad fly planes, and she's already following in his footsteps.
I don't have a car living in Toronto. If I need to get anywhere, any distance away, I usually fly myself actually.
This plane ride, about 15 minutes long, part of the Girls Take Flight event at Billy Bishop Airport, featuring interactive exhibits, close-up aircraft views, and networking opportunities with industry pros, including Porter Airlines' female assistant chief pilot.
I think my inspiration was Peter Pan. I was watching the movie when I was 5 or 6 years old, and that's when I knew I wanted to fly. Just had to figure out how to do without fairy dust.
But professionals like her are scarce in a male-dominated industry. According to the Canadian Council for Aviation and Aerospace, only around 7% of pilots and 6% of mechanics are women, occupations that are already seeing critical shortages.
This is a way for us to connect girls into that sector. We're a nation that's really dependent on aviation.
For women trying to enter the industry, the cost of training, a lack of mentors, and limited exposure to aviation are often barriers.
I think we just need more events like this to let young women and girls know that this is a career option for them.
Flying, I guess, is a big confidence booster. You know, the idea of getting yourself into a plane, taking yourself from place to place.
And it already has Rhea and Maya thinking about where flying can take them next.
Not only men can fly planes. Girls can do anything they want if they try their hardest.
Germain Ma, Global News.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Ann Gaviola. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Provost, Alberta, Wassa Gaming, Manitoba, also known as Clear Lake, and Birchie Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you for watching. Jeff Semple will be at the anchor desk tomorrow night. Have a great night.